Hello everybody, CritCrab here with another story, this one about a DM who wanted to play D&D with his friends, only to learn that they all had wildly different expectations to say the very least. Roll post. So I got here from CritCrab, go CritCrab Nation, hey, let's go! And this has been on my mind for several years now, and just to get the frustration out, I decided to write on this. In this long story, I know I could have handled it better as a DM, and I should have, but I wanted them to enjoy a game that I have long enjoyed because one of them was my girlfriend at the time, and I just wanted her and I to bond more. Little did I know, it was just going to drive us further apart. So we start by me dating this girl. Met her at an anime convention, and I knew right off the bat that she wasn't the most stable, but that's way off topic. And there's more underlining issues that don't belong in this subreddit. One night, hanging out with her friends, most of which I didn't like either through drug addiction, alcohol addiction, or just plain out not good people. One of the people bring up the topic of tattoos, and they ask me about my forearm tattoo, which is a set of dice down my arm. I tell them that it's from D&D and explain to them what it's about. Several of them just kind of brush it off and continue, but a couple of them come to me later and tell me they've been interested but never played. At the time, I've been playing since 4th edition, and at this point 5th edition is out, and that's what I explained to them. Then in that drunken night, some of them asked me if we could give it a try, so that's where this long story begins. The characters include the DM, myself, Lil Nomi, GF, Hagrid, call him Bill, Baldrax, call him Gajiro, and Barbados, call him Marine. So most of who talked about playing that night didn't actually want to play, just my girlfriend and Bill. The other two, Gajiro and Marine, we added later. They were friends of my girlfriend and were nice enough guys that I thought would enjoy it, and those two were actually really good. This story doesn't really revolve around them, they were just idle RPG players. They tried to get into the story, do things their characters would do, and went along with whatever was going on because they wanted to be a part of the world. Also, the events I'm about to share didn't all happen back to back. I say the shortest amount of time was about 5 sessions to the next event, and between them was a lot of combat. We started on Horde of the Dragon Queen. I knew it was a new player-friendly campaign, and my GF was really into Game of Thrones at the time, so she wanted to give it a shot as well. We got my girlfriend, who rolled up a halfling rogue, Bill, who did a human wizard and wanted to be all fire and ice, Gajiro, a dragonborn barbarian, and Marine, a dragonborn fighter. Right off the bat, I noticed issues with my girlfriend. When combat came, she made comments the entire time of how she wasn't doing the biggest damage of the group. I simply tell her that while she's a rogue with only a dagger in level 1, you weren't going to really be doing big damage just yet. That she was sort of fine with, but when I told her that with a fighter, barbarian, and a wizard beside you, you'll probably be doing the less amount of damage out of the group come later levels. Then she really wasn't pleased. She made a couple comments about killing off her character already before they even reached level 2, and I asked her to give it a little bit, as rogues are really good at not getting hit and doing things outside of combat. She still wasn't happy but kept going. This continued for several more sessions as they got rid of the dragon, saved the monk, and are now making their way on a 3-month in-game road trip. They're all level 4 now, and outside of the game she has told me that she wants magic items that will make her amazing. Bill hung out at our house a lot and agreed with her, and wanting to please my girlfriend, I decided to come up with an in-game activity that I thought was challenging, fun, involved everyone to work together, and if they came out on top then they got magic items. At level 4. The first mistake already, I understand. Come time for the activity, they find a cave that was spilling magic out of it that Bill could not ignore. They go over and notice a giant chessboard with a time wizard there whose name was Just in Time. A little pun that girlfriend and Bill hated. It was a little Harry Potter style chess game where they were all pieces that could only move on their turn. Each piece had an armor class, so you couldn't take it out unless you rolled high enough. And taking the king meant victory. Marine was excited. He played chess and knew the rules. Gajiro didn't know chess but still tried his best. As for girlfriend and Bill, however, they did not want any part of this. They saw this as a brain challenge and basically killed their pieces early on to sit on their phones while only coming back when Marine basically soloed the whole thing and won. I was a little more than upset as I went outside the book and tried something that they simply ignored because it wasn't combat. Now to the magic items they won. Before you say anything, I no longer do this for anyone. The magic items I gave them were way too strong for their level and honestly strong for any high level characters. First, Gajiro the Barbarian. He got the Horn of Valhalla, of the highest tier, and Wave, a sentient trident that worked with his character because he had already had a sea god. Marine, the fighter, got the Defender Sword and Black Razor, another sentient longsword. I gave them these two items because in-game they were brothers, and the bond/rivalry the two weapons had I found interesting. Bill the Wizard got a Fireball necklace and the Rod of Lordly Might. This one was on me as I read half of the item, saw it turned into a flame blade, and only noticed I made a mistake when I explained to him what the item did. Next is Girlfriend. She got a cloak that basically let her cast Disguise Self when she wanted, 8 times a day, and a lockpick that never broke, and had amazing modifier and boots of spider climb. In my head, I thought she could do more rogue things and be sneaky and be a really good party player. Boy, was I wrong. She immediately made a comment of how they got weapons and she didn't, and that these items were useless. Then she said that the wizard's name was terrible. I already felt bad that they didn't like this encounter, and now that she didn't like the items, it made me feel worse. So I ended the session there and played another day. Outside of the game, she explains again how she thought it was unfair that she wasn't doing the biggest damage, and still, I tried to calm her down by telling her that now, with these items, she'll basically never get hit and be able to sneak everywhere. She wasn't having it. To add to that, I almost never targeted her in-game. Once again, yeah, that's on me. And Gajiro and Marine were such good tanks that GF and Bill didn't really ever have to worry about getting hit. Well, 2 sessions from then, they make it to a castle and find the cult. I made the worst possible decision I could have made by throwing into this castle the terrible, yet amazing, the game-ending and game-breaking, the ever-so-feared deck of many things. And I thought this way it was no longer up to me if they got good things and they wouldn't be mad at me. I was wrong again. Not wanting to kill their characters, I took out the 2 cards that just wipe your character. They drew from the deck and got a good card, think it was one that gave them gold. Girlfriend made another comment of how she wants the deck to reset every day so that they can keep drawing from it, and once again, I made the mistake of allowing it. They ended up drawing really good cards most of the time. Bill pulled the card that destroyed all of his magic items and was upset, but eventually we threw him the Fireball necklace later as he really liked it, but the rod wasn't coming back. They eventually tried to get smart and taking off all their magic items before pulling from the deck each time. Gajiro and Bill ended up with keeps of their own that they decided to combine into a fortress-like thing that they still had to clear out. They make it to the end of Horde of the Dragon Queen, all still alive, and Girlfriend commenting literally every single session that her rogue doesn't have the biggest dick in the group. She would go out of her way to fight enemies herself to feel powerful, sleep with NPCs just to kill them in their sleep, and split from the party to start combat. In this case, I really did try my best to spoon-feed her encounters that a sneaky rogue would excel at, but she didn't want any part in those as they weren't combat. Now, post Horde of the Dragon Queen, they go and try and take their keep. This keep basically had 2 large towers that each player would be in charge of, and a large central area to join up. Each one they had to overcome. The Barbarian side did have mostly combat as I felt it fit in with Barbarians. The Wizard side, however, was filled with puzzles and riddles that they had to figure out before unlocking and defeating the boss monster in the central room. Girlfriend and Bill hated literally every single encounter in Bill's side of the keep. Several floors with escape room-like puzzles and a hard riddle at the end. I wasn't the best at coming up with those, so I looked online and got some that I knew they didn't know. Well, after about 1 try, Girlfriend and Bill are on their phones looking up the answer while Gajiro and Marine are trying so hard to figure it out. They came up with ways to throw in test dummies so they wouldn't die and spent about 10 minutes before Girlfriend just shouted, "This is the stupidest thing ever, we gotta do this," referring to her phone. "Nobody's gonna think to do this." Girlfriend and Bill found the answer online and unlocked the boss room. Going back down the tower, Bill said that he didn't want this keep if it was just filled with puzzles. I just told him that he could make it how he wanted, and right before the boss fight, Girlfriend and Bill said that this better not be another puzzle, while I already made hints that this was a Beholder's Lair. We didn't get that far into Rise of Tiamat, as after that whole thing I really was not feeling like hearing about how all my work was useless. Marine eventually went off to the Marines, and Gajiro moved, so there's that too. Even before then, they kinda checked out. Gajiro said to me that he liked the campaign, but wasn't liking playing with my girlfriend and Bill, which honestly I can understand. Later on, Bill wanted to try and start a campaign, which went a whole 1 session as I made a fighter named Belmont and spoke in third person. I was going to be a pure tank for the party, and all of my skills were going to be ways to block damage for everyone. Bill nor girlfriend liked my character, didn't like my backstory on hating fish, and did not like my third person speaking, as they never really did roleplay. Truly only spoke third person maybe 3 times. 1 session in and I go down 3 times, as the last time girlfriend just walks from my character saying, "Yeah, let him die." Didn't even ask to play that again, nor do I think they've tried to play it again. The 3rd time, we started Tomb of Annihilation and the same problems came up. Girlfriend and Bill wanted to be super strong super early, and I didn't let them this time. The other 2 we brought in, Girlfriend and Bill, kind of roped into their mindset as well. They went on for about 10 sessions before I couldn't take it anymore. The final straw came when Girlfriend found out I was making my own campaign, and honestly never planned to tell her. I was really just writing it on my free time, and maybe I could run it someday. Well, she found out and asked to play it. It was only about a quarter of the way done, and said that I could continue as they played. I agreed, and we started with the same 4 as Tomb of Annihilation. They literally hated the starting session. It was a murder mystery. They had to figure out who had committed the murder, what secrets the mansion held, and take the blame off of themselves. They turned it into a bloodbath as they killed anyone who they thought was lying, never searched the house, bodies, or room that they were in. So we ended it there and nothing got done. Girlfriend and Bill said that they hated that whole thing and didn't think I knew how to write a good story. I stopped playing and writing my campaign after that. Since then, the girlfriend and I clearly broke up. There were a lot of other problems we had, and it really fucked with me. I moved fairly close to Gajiro and another anime convention friend, and they wanted to start a campaign with me. At first I declined, as it just brought back way too many sour memories. Gajiro, like the absolute bro that he is, helped me through that really rough year of my life, and I eventually started Horde of the Dragon Queen once again with a group of all new players, except for one and Gajiro. At the time of writing this, that group is nearing Tiamat, having a great time, and I run another Curse of Strahd campaign. I'm still having a rough time with the dating side of things, and really haven't gotten back to the person I once was before meeting her. But I'm back to playing D&D, and I'm loving it. Edit. I know I should have handled it better, but when the time came, I knew that before writing this. After reading the comments, I see the big issue is in me not letting her switch classes and not giving her damage-dealing magic items. There was a session 0 as we lived together, and she went through the classes and chose the rogue herself. Yeah, after hearing she wanted to do bigger damage, I should have let her change. There was a lot of back and forth outside of D&D 2 that when the 3rd or so session came around, she no longer wanted to switch. Or by that time, yeah, of course I would have let her. She eventually got a magic dagger. Dagger of Venom, if I'm not mistaken, as they got it in the castle before the deck, but after burning the library. I had let her know about the sneak attack bonus that she got, but she wasn't a fan of sticking to the shadows, which you don't even have to do. And I think in the Tomb campaign she also played a rogue. Last thing, I'm like 98% sure she wasn't cheating with Bill as he was gay and had a crush on Marine. That went literally nowhere, by the way. Girlfriend, myself, and Bill all lived in a townhouse at this time, if that helps at all. Also, if she said anything at all other than, "I want to do the biggest damage," then yeah, I would have changed up the campaign as I had already made plenty of changes. Last edit. I would have dropped the campaign if they really were not having a good time, but she and Bill were the main people that got the group together to play, They were always talking about what to do next and enjoyed their character. They at least said that outside of the game. I enjoy reading anyway, so I was basically ready at the drop of a hat, and the campaign would happen whenever I heard they were on their way over. These were just the main points that really stuck out to me, and believe there's more in this, the Abyss campaign and Tomb campaign. I threw harder monsters at them to really try and sate their lust for blood, but honestly I think that just made it worse. Literally so much so that they pissed off the council at the beginning of Rise of Tiamat and had to fight the champions of the council. Gajiro ended up going down, as at this point he told me that he just was not having a good time with the way Girlfriend and Bill were controlling things. They also blew up a shop while just doing a normal buying run, so yeah, maybe I should have just ran a campaign of Gladiator Arena combat. End post. First off, I just want to make it clear that while the DM could have done a lot better, these are all lessons that you usually learn just by playing the game, and the DM seems to have learned them. I mean, I personally made very similar mistakes when I was a newer DM. So for that reason, and to save us some time here, I'm not really going to rag on the mistakes he made that would have made this all a bit more avoidable. It's obvious now though that the Girlfriend wanted a very different game than the DM was offering. He wanted a game full of puzzles and roleplay, while she would have been much happier with a dungeon crawler where you kill the bad guys and get the loot. That's why it's important to use a Session 0 as a way to clear the air and see what everybody enjoys and wants out of the game. It's hard running games where there's a group of people who are genuinely fun to play with and are engaged, and a second group that drags the experience down but are also inseparable from the former group. Sometimes it's worth gritting your teeth and getting through the bad moments. Other times it's just too much and you're made to feel like you're letting the good friends down when canceling the game. I'm just here to say that D&D is not the only social outlet, and if you're not having fun, or if the bad times outweigh the good, then by all means don't continue to waste your time like that. Maybe find another activity that suits your group better, like video games or board games. I personally have friends that I love hanging out with and are amazing people, but I really just can't see them being a good D&D party, and that's okay. Also, aside from that, I just want to go on a bit of a tangent. Who the f Googles the answer to a DM's riddle? Having to read that sentence out loud made me want to rip my eyelashes out with a roll of duct tape. What the fuck?